Can I see the golden light? That's a silver twilight. Understand that golden hour. Taking selfies, turn her golden hour. She takes selfies in golden hour. In line, golden light. Selfies in the golden hour. She takes selfies in the golden light. Golden light. Selfie in the golden light. She takes selfies in the golden light. The golden eye, the golden line, the Gold Coast of Africa. When we look at the Congo in the Tropic of Cancer and this horizon line, this great horizon, and how this horizon line and the golden light and the silver twilight played a major part in the dividing of light from day from night. When we understand the 180 degrees of the dominion of the sun's light and the mixing of the twilights and the 144 degrees of darkness, of this bar of the twilights, of these three twilights that keeps the darkness in this bound. When we look at the populace own and the protection, the covering of the land, understand this is the covering. So we're talking about the Gold Coast, or what's known as Almorak, all the way into Hawaii. So when you look at this ancient Al-Moroccan Empire and twilights and the 144 degrees of darkness, of this bar of the twilights, of these three twilights that keeps the darkness in this bound. When we look at the populace own and the protection, the covering of the land, understand this is the covering. So we're talking about the Gold Coast, or what's known as Almorak, all the way into Hawaii. So when you look at this ancient Al-Moroccan Empire, the golden eye, the golden line, the Gold Coast of Africa. When we look at the Congo in the Tropic of Cancer and this horizon line, this great horizon, and how this horizon line and the golden light and the silver twilight played a major part in the dividing of light from day from night. When we understand the 180 degrees of the dominion of the sun's light and the mixing of the twilights and the 144 degrees of darkness, of this bar of the twilights, of these three twilights that keeps the darkness in this bound. When we look at the populace own and the protection, the covering of the land, understand this is the covering. So we're talking about the Gold Coast, or what's known as Almorak, all the way into Hawaii. So when we look at this ancient Al-Moroccan Empire and the pilgrimages of the offerings and coming into the different lands, when we look at the Gulf of the Mississippi River, is indicated, the west of the four rivers is indicated, showing that these great rivers, all the way from the Lake of Superior, where we find these ancient mines. When we look at the Three Sisters and the mound builders, the ancient mound mines here in the America, and how they played a role in the trade with the Atlantic, and with even during the times of Mansa Musa, who's known in the earth as one of the richest men to ever live. You gotta understand the import and export between the lands of what is now Africa and Europe and the Americas. This triangular trade had been in existence all the way from Lake Superior, regions of Canada, Newfoundland, and connections with Great Britain, Europe, the Iberian Peninsula, and the west coast of Africa, Morocco, Ghana, all the way down to the southern horn of Africa. So when we see this golden coast, gold ivory coast, and we understand the land of milk and honey, you have to understand the covering and the protection from the great horizon line. This is why in Jeremiah 16:4 it says, "It should no more be said that the Lord liveth, that delivered the children of Israel from the land of Egypt, but the Lord liveth, that delivered them from the land of the north." You have to understand how Joseph in the beginnings was made king, and how he was able to save the world based upon his knowledge and understanding to store for 7 years. When we look at the 7 years and 7 sabbaticals and Shavat, see, it's 2:16, I'm messing up. So when you look at what I'm saying is, okay, so you have 180 degrees for the bar of the sunlight, two great Maors. So this is how the lands were divided. When you look at the two great Maors and the two crowns, the two dominions, the two domains, and the protected land, the covered land, you have to understand that from 0 degrees from where West Africa is the ending of the Gemini, to 18 degrees west. So 0 degrees to 18 degrees west. When we look at the Kim in this ancient land, this site is known as the Egyptian name of pharaohs, considered the earthly incarnation. The all-seeing celestial bird was also a patron deity of kinship. The first pharaoh on either side of the Palette Narmer is shown engaging in the battle in the aftermath, wearing the traditional crowns of two culturally and politically distinct regions of Egypt: the white crown of the Nile Valley and the red crown of the Delta. The Palette thought to celebrate the unification of the two lands in a bloody battle won by Narmer. So when you look at Amunet and the she goddess of the west, and the concept of the west, you have to understand 18 degrees from west, from the 0 degrees of Ghana, in this region, Central Time, Timbuktu, from Babylon to Timbuktu, L. So we'll see the twins. You have to understand the connection with the twins is the Capricorn and Cancer, January and Juno, and the removing of the children of Judah and Jerusalem far from their border. We have to see how that was done. So when you look at Morocco, and the selling and the trading of Judah and Israel far from their border, from the hill catchers' land, understand the hill, the lyre and weight, and how this hill and this lyre and weight and the protection of the Gemini gave a border of protection to this covering that was 18 degrees west all the way into this land of America, all the way into the regions of Hawaii. So this is why when we see the luau's and the looping, the connection of the sunrise and sunset, this is what the twins and the looping is significant of. The twining of time and the twist of time, the Guyane. So Ghana, the twist in these regions of South Africa, these coastlines, the Horn of Africa, the turning during this time. This is why people in the regions above, in the northern hemisphere, above the 50 and 60th parallel, during these particular times of the Tammuz of the Tropic of Cancer, they experience extended periods of daylight. So these regions, even after sunset, still experience light because the sun is in their presence. So when you look at the Sarafana and the burning and the sun's presence being in this Arctic Circle and not allowing darkness to be present in these regions, constantly keeping the earth lit, literally. While we understand the twining that takes place of these two solstices, the looping, the Lael, the lily, the first fruits of the earth, the Shabbat. We understand the Sabbath as the Shabbat, the seventh, and the 7 Sabbaths from the beginning of the new year, the 50, the Pentecost, and this coast of the 50. When we look at the golden coast of Africa, Timbuktu, and these regions, you have to understand the Pentecost, and 50 degrees, 50 days from golden line, yeah. See the civil twilight, brightness eye, golden eye, Gemini, horizon line, golden line, civil light, yeah. Look up in the sky, see the golden light. That's a civil twilight. Understand that golden hour, taking selfies, her golden hour. She takes selfies in golden hour, golden eye, selfies in the golden hour. She takes selfies in the golden eye, selfie in the golden light. She takes selfies in the golden light, golden hour, yeah. Golden light, golden eye, selfies in the golden hour. She take selfies in the golden hour, civil twilight. Hey, baby, I wanna see what you see when you in the golden hour, civil twilight, baby. Hey, golden hour, yeah, civil light, golden selfies in the golden hour. She takes selfies in the golden hour, civil twilight. Hey, baby, I wanna see what you see when you in that golden hour, civil twilight, baby. Hey, golden hour, civil light, golden light, golden light. Yeah, see the civil light, civil twilight, brightness eye, golden eye, golden eye, golden eye, dimming light, horizon light, golden light, civil light. Yeah, look up in the sky, see the golden light. That's a civil twilight. Understand that golden hour, taking selfies, her golden hour. She takes selfies in golden hour, in light, golden eye, selfies in the golden hour. She takes selfies in the golden light, golden eye. Selfie in the golden light. She takes selfies in the golden light, golden hour. Yeah, golden light, golden eye, selfies in the golden hour. She takes selfies in the golden hour, civil twilight. Hey, baby, I wanna see what you see when you in the golden hour, civil twilight, baby. Hey, golden hour, yeah, civil light, golden eye, selfies in the golden hour. She takes selfies in the golden hour, civil twilight. Hey, baby, I wanna see what you see when you in that golden hour, civil twilight, baby. Hey, golden hour, yeah, golden hour. She takes selfies in golden hour, in light, golden eye, selfies in the golden hour. She takes selfies in the golden light, golden eye. The significance of these lands being protected under the same measure that you see in the neck here being personified through this deity here in who they gave the title of the Star Girl, which is a depiction of the divine, the diva, the Deborah, the queen bee, the spoken oracle, right? So these people, if you check them out, they took a place out here called the Cow Palace, right, for sports arenas and different things or what have you. But understand the Hindu pantheon, right? It says Kali is named as one of the 7 tongues of Agni of the Hindu god fire. So even when you look at the Yalamu and the name of what they call them, the Yalamu, the ancient people here of San Francisco, you'll find the Rama coming into the phonetics of explaining these people. So these goddesses, he became a saint. They just gave him a saint, but he raped a lot of the native people here on the land. He was a pedophile, and the Pope just gave him sainthood not too long ago. And a lot of people was protesting that, because even when you look at this picture here with the little native boy, and you look at the history behind this saint, this priest, it's the truth. It's on Wikipedia. They can go Wikipedia and see.
Okay, come on.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so this is Junipero Serra, one of the priests who raped the little boys here, out here in these missions when they destroyed the Americans' civilization empire here on the coast. When we look at Amunet in the Western Hemisphere, and the land of the hidden, the land of the north, and this hidden land, this land that was associated with darkness, being in this region from 0 to 144 degrees west, being now at the 120 degrees west, I can see the sun at the... So when we look at this ancient capital of ancient Egypt and the city of Nekim, When we understand the night and the darkness and the hidden land and Nekim and the red mound and Hemera and the place across. When we look at Gemini and Hemi, Demi, and Shimi, with the Shemera, Shamaron, or Hemera, we understand the hemisphere and the summer solstice and the 0 degrees and the door to the western hemisphere of the west. I'm in it. Hebrew Canaanite languages, Hebrew Canaanite symbols prevalent in the Americas. Ancient Hebrew, Canaanite Hebrew in the Americas before the corruptions of Aramaic and the other forms of modern Hebrew, Babylonian Hebrew, and the interjections of a lot of Babylonian, Mesopotamian things that we see today. You have to understand that these Babylonians, Assyrians, who were also recorded to also be Negroid people, you know what I'm saying, circumnavigated the earth, but also they put into bondage a lot of people within the earth. So when we look at the Shashu, Joel, the 3rd chapter, refers to the removing of the children of Judah and Jerusalem far from their border and from their coast. Now when we look at this ancient coastline, and as we were talking about earlier, the Great Horizon Line and the protection that had been provided by Africa, Afar, Akibalan, the hill catcher, lying in wait for those trying to cross over and come into what is known as the Promised Land, the land of promise, the land of possession, the land flowing freely of milk and honey, where labor and other things were not required. So men could live freely here in these lands of the America to worship, to give praise to the Creator. So that was the main essential about this land of America. Men could live freely here in these lands of the America to worship, to give praise to the Creator. So that was the main essential about this land of America. America was a land of worship, of praise, to give thanks to the Creator in the lands aligned with the heavens and the earth. And Africa, for many years, was a protection. So this is why when we look at a lot of the signs and symbols dealing with Africa, where's that? So you see here the selling of the Hebrews. So you see here the selling of the Hebrews. Here we go. It talks about the 2 portions. Right? So when we look at the 2 portions, the 2 lands, the 2 ladies, Upper and Lower Egypt, and the Amu people, and why we see in the tombs the representation of so much of a census. You have to understand the census and the populace of On. And the 3rd chapter, and it talks about. So when you look at the census and the populace On, is what I was just talking about, right? So the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, Samaria. So, where that's at? Let me get it. And the populace of On. This is an ancient location, an ancient city, also known as Nekim, or the Red Mound, in regards to the eastern border of the Pacific. So when you look at Amen, which means the multitude of the populace, right? And the scriptures, and it says, "Art thou better than the populace?" No. that was situated among the rivers, that had waters round about it, whose rampart was the sea, and her wall was from the sea. So these ancient lands, when you look at America, and the coast, Mexico, and the protections, many different lands that you'll find here, ramparts with ancient forms of Hebrew. In New Mexico, you'll find ruins with ancient forms of Hebrew, pre-captivity Hebrew, showing and giving evidence